The relationship between industry and academia is undergoing a fundamental shift, as we know. What was once largely limited to campus placements is now evolving into deeper collaborations around skills, around innovation, and also around workforce readiness. As GCCs in India expand their strategic role, the expectations from universities are changing just as rapidly. In this episode of BW People HR Voices, presented by Centurion University of Technology and Management, we explored how academia and industry can move from transactional hiring to building future-ready talent ecosystems. Joining us today are Rajat Sinha, Managing Director and Head of HR, BNP Paribas, India and Philippines GCC, and Professor D.N. Rao, Co-founder and Vice President of Centurion University of Technology and Management. Welcome both of you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, Savi.
Yeah, thank you. And good afternoon to all of you. Yes.
Well, the topic for today, it's very relevant in today's time and era, campus placements to collaborative innovation. I'll start with you, Mr. Sinha, getting directly into the conversation. We know that BNP Paribas, it has a massive footprint in India. As a leader, how do you think the definition of a successful university partnership has evolved over the years? And also, adding on to that question, do you think it is still about the number of hires, or the KPIs have also evolved over the time?
So I must first admit that I was very excited to be a part of this podcast, and one of the reasons was that the topic that we have, which is university academia partnerships, academia industry partnerships, is a topic very close to my heart. I think organizations that build raw talent, are successful, and I think they're growth oriented. They have a growth oriented mindset, and I'm very fortunate that in my career that the organizations that I've worked for have all been very passionate about industry academia partnership as such. To your question, I think over the last couple of years specifically, the entire definition of the way both sides see the partnership now is changing. I think gone are the days when we just used to have a hiring number in place and used to see the universities as a source of hiring, right? I think specifically over the last 5 to 10 years, that entire context has undergone a change.
Right.
If you really look at it from a bigger picture, universities, academia build concepts. They build the foundational capability, and I think industry has the context, and I think together the partnership builds applied capability. Both without each other, the applied capability just does not happen. Coming straight to the question, I think from numbers, I think the conversation has moved into 3 directions. One is how ready is the talent that we get from the industry? What are the skills, both hard and soft, that the industry or the academia, that the industry wants, and the academia inculcates or teaches. So how soon can the talent be ready on production as such? Point number 1. I think point number 2 is really in terms of the capability. What are the capabilities that the academia is imparting, and the capabilities are actually changing. And I think that partnership between industry and academia in terms of what are the changes, what are the requirements, has to be intense. I think co-creation is the third part, and that is the most important part that is changing. If there's no co-creation of capability, if the industry is not connected with the academia, or vice versa, what comes out of the acads are, as I said, I mean, the applied capability is not there as such. So the context of the industry, which is rapidly changing, has to be adapted by the industry, by the acads, and the industry has to be as much involved in co-creating the syllabus, imparting knowledge to the acads, as much as academia is embedded in the industry as a partnership on creating co-creating research models, and be a part of the industry from scratch as such. So internships, co-creating syllabus, management development programs, continuous learning, which basically, is not only for students, but also middle-level managers, senior managers. All of that is, I think, coming into play. And therefore, between industry and acads, it is just not about the start. It is about the start, middle-level managers, senior leaders, creating the concepts, testing the concepts, etc.
Very, very wonderfully put. The first point that you mentioned about talent readiness, Professor Rao, I'll come to you on this. You've talked about initiatives like shadow engineering, right? How, and when we talk about global capability centers, they're very high stake environments as compared to traditional organizations. So how can programs like these prepare the students for such environments?
Yeah, essentially we have tried certain approaches like in Centurion. For example, I'll give you one, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So I'll give you some example of how it works with us. Let's say we've been working with Dassault systems now. Dassault is a global brand and, has a very high level of design requirements, right? Okay, and tools and things like that. See, normally what we do with Dassault is there's a roadmap for research and in their own R&D, right? Okay. Where there are certain things which are, as Rajat Sinha just now pointed out, there is of course there's pressure, there's timelines and all that. But the way technology is going, even nobody is able to predict. Even multinationals are not able to predict what direction it will actually take. So Dassault then identifies certain things that might actually impact in future, but they are not sure whether it will impact or not, right? Okay. And such areas, they actually kind of throw it onto us and say, hey, okay, this is an area where like this new material that's coming up, we don't really know whether it really works or not, right? Okay, but maybe your professor should try this and see if something comes out. And we keep exchanging. For example, I'm now doing such a solution using hyperspectral imaging analytics for agriculture as an application. Dassault was very keen on it, but it was not immediately on their R&D agenda. So they were kind of supporting us with the tools, with the software and all that. And just now, in fact, we also had a call with, another company where we're trying to do quantum applications in agriculture and stuff like that. So always a company can actually identify what is immediate, of course, where there's a bottom line pressure or a top line pressure, a delivery pressure. Obviously, they won't be able to kind of hand it over to, or involve, academic team immediately. But there are also areas in each of these which are not that having the time pressure or that, there is no client pressure. And they can kind of involve us in those particular things, give us the tool support, commit us some manpower and, from their side also. And then we can start co-creating and things like that. In fact, we have been working like this with almost 50 to 60 companies, right? Okay. And the other part where we are doing with such companies is POCs, proof of concepts, right? For example, same case with Dassault, you look at it, there were lots and lots of applications which they have implemented worldwide. But when they're trying to sell their tools, let's say to Coal India or anything like that in India, let's say mining, Indian companies are asking, do you have any Indian case studies, Indian users, right? And things like that. And often, sometimes, especially new tools, they don't have any Indian clients. This is when they actually urge us and say, okay, can you make a POC for us? Okay, proof of concept, using your students and faculty. And they say, yeah, we don't have an Indian client, but we have this university here which has developed, let's say, digital mining, right? Okay. This is what they have done in digital mining for us. Why don't you go and actually have a look at it? So a couple of questions which the industry would ask, like, okay, is this really tried in Indian conditions? Especially public sector is very keen about that kind of thing. Second, do I get the ready-made manpower, which Rajat Ji also mentioned, right? Okay, because when they're buying a new tool, let's say from Dassault, they're always bothered, okay, how much time it will take for me to train my existing manpower on this? But if they know that, yes, it's possible that they can actually hire some manpower, a lot of times they outsource the tool as well as the manpower also and things like that. The moment they know, yeah, there's a tool, it has been used as a POC and also manpower is ready, they are kind of willing to kind of, go ahead. So we have been able to also generate business for companies. So that's what, when you said, that we are now trying to pitch to the companies as a value chain partner, not just as a VAR, as a system integrator, and say, hey, we can actually, universities could be your value-added resellers, universities could be your, system integrators, and that's the way we're adding value. So I would like to say, it's flanking. We're working on the sides. We're not working on their main business and main thrust areas, because where there is a revenue pressure or a time pressure, we don't touch that. But there are always areas where you can work with companies which are on the side, which we can actually develop with them. And then when they are confident about us, we can then mainstream and into their particular products and services.
Some lovely initiatives that you've shared with us. Thank you for that. Mr. Sinha, coming back to you, as we know, GCCs, when we talk about GCCs, they're no longer viewed as cost centers, they're now value creators. Correct. Now, with that, the skills have also evolved, perhaps in risk management, ECG, or even complex derivatives. What are some of the skills that you wish that the freshers were taught at university level, at school level, into their core curriculum that you see maybe are missing in freshers today?
So I think if you read the skills report as such, and the entire world is going in that direction, and banking and GCCs are no different. I think AI and big data. I think if I put bullet point number 1, it is AI and big data. Now that's a vast topic, and AI is applied and is an application that has to be used across the board, and whatever your niche skill is, how do you apply AI to that, how do you apply big data and analytics to that, is something that I think is banking GCs are really looking forward to. Second is that I think one of the skills that is really expanding in the banking GCC side is cybersecurity. Cybersecurity, as you can imagine, where everything's connected to everything, you won't want your money to be in a place which is at risk, so as to say. So I think cybersecurity is a big risk, big skill that I think GCs in banks would want in the next 5 to 6 years. And the third one, I think, is regulatory and risk framework, risk and regulatory framework, so as to say. I think increasingly with credit or with operational or any kind of risk where banks take that really seriously, that skill set and regulatory framework, various financial institutions are regulated by multiple bodies, locally, nationally, regionally, globally, and therefore regulatory framework is a skill that I think GCCs in banks would really want. Apart from that, I think because of the fact that we are going into a world which is highly skilled, supported by AI technology, what is also becoming and coming to the fore is human skills, and while those have always been there, but they're really coming top of the platform. Let's say collaboration, curiosity, lifelong learning, resilience, database storytelling. These skills, whatever role you do, wherever you are, whichever industry you are, I think will never get redundant, and increasingly will play a more important role in a professional success than any other skill. So how universities teach these skills is extremely important.
Right. Very well said and very rightly put, because we call the soft skills as the power skills of the industry, right? And these work in each and every industry. Professor Rao, coming to you, when we talk about universities, we often hear that the curriculum update is somehow, it's considered slow, right? Now, how can a university stay agile enough to match this sprint cycle with global organizations? How can the curriculum be updated and evolve?
Yeah, I think this is a misnomer to think today that today's universities are behind the curve as far as curriculum is concerned. Especially, I can speak of the private universities. The government universities still have a lag because of their procedures and and stuff like that. They have to follow certain, they have that committees and then it gets and also there are two issues. One, when the government institutions and even private institutions where the programs are regulated by regulators. Right? For example, our agriculture program is regulated by Indian Council for Agriculture Research. Bar Council regulates our law program, and the Veterinary Council regulates our veterinary programs. There, obviously, we are bound by what the regulator kind of comes out, and sometimes they frown on us whenever we kind of do innovate beyond. They only allow us about 30% innovation. 70% they want you to kind of follow what they've been taught, and often that's our complaint to the regulators that they are quite behind the curve, in terms of what is needed and things that. But AICT and UGC have been kind of very progressive, and if you're looking at engineering and all, and there have not been too much of trouble in as far as AICT is concerned. In most of our universities in these areas, like let's say graduate, which is managed by UGC and AICT, the curriculum is now become dynamic.
Right.
So virtually, every 6 months also in Centurion, we can actually change our curriculum. So in fact, the board of studies which is there, but normally we do it in once in a year. And we have most of our private universities today operate on ERPs, and there's a complete automation of the academic cycle, right from attendance using QR codes up to graduating, digital lockers, blockchain for certificates and stuff like that. Completely IT is a backbone. So, and most of the curriculum is also made digital. So most of the material is there online, and then students can actually kind of access it. There are lectures which video recorded. There are stuff available, and then we are having constant interaction with partnership with industry. In fact, it's no longer working for industry. We are working with industry, let's say. So how is the industry working with us? It's giving us equipment sometimes when the equipment is key, right? For example, things like automotive and all, they actually kind of under the CSR, they give us equipment, they give us the curriculum, right? Their trainers work with us, in fact, in training our faculty and things like that. So it's a build, operate, transfer kind of a model. So in fact, as Rajat ji was talking about AI and ML, for example, we have already started, let's say, with machine learning, but today we are into agentic AI as the clock moves. We are working with LT technologies as well as LT Mindtree, right? In terms of developing POCs for AI, ML and quantum kind of applications. In quantum, cybersecurity is going to be disrupted by quantum computing, and there we have a compartment called Q New Labs and all. So most private universities today are very, very actively seeking industry collaborations, actively seeking industry advice, and we've also UGC has now started this professor of practice, right, where an industry person can be actually kind of appointed. He doesn't need to have a PhD. So we have many such professors of practice where we actually kind of call people from industry and give them appointments. They visit our campuses. So I think if you look at it last 10 years back to now, I say industry academia today is much more integrated now, right? Okay, there are like two wheels of the same vehicle today than it was, let's say, 15 or 10 years back. But yes, I agree that where regulators are controlling our curriculum, whether it's agriculture or any other, yes, we are bound by what they say, and sometimes it does have some friction there in terms of some of what they do is actually not perhaps cutting edge and stuff like that. Yes.
Right. You've shared how students are using AI as a co-pilot. Mr. Sinha, AI is no more limited to just ChatGPT or Gemini, and that's a misconception that a lot of young professionals, or let's say freshers, have, that we use ChatGPT and that's the most we're making out of AI, right? From your perspective, what is, are we raising the bar for what a fresher needs to know from day one, and how can AI be a co-pilot to a fresher, to the young professionals that are entering the industry? And also, if you could give us an example from the banking perspective as well.
So I think, it's a very exciting time to be in university and coming out of a university,
Right.
Because of AI, because of technology. I think in the next 1 or 2 years, you'll have a generation coming out of universities which have not seen university life without AI. Okay, and that is very exciting because AI literacy, AI adoption is a way of life. Not only the way we use as Chat GPT, but also how organizations are now leveraging AI across the board. I think every organization now has, or most of the organizations have a tie-up with a AI, partner or a tool, or are developing their own AI tools as such. Typically in banks, the trend, I think, is that banks tend to develop their own AI tools because of the fact that data confidentiality and data privacy comes into the play, because what we have as data, we really want to keep it in a limited scope as opposed to expose that all over the place because of obvious reasons. And therefore, I think to your question, how is the student life or how is the student's expectation changing? I think what AI is doing is that it's driving niche. I think generic skills, generic knowledge has become free and has become increasingly accessible, increasingly interpretable, and therefore everybody has to have a niche skill as such. And on that niche skill, you are supported by AI. What is also, I think, shifting from a student perspective is the power skills, as you highlighted. I think the differentiating factor is that, let's say, in the good old days, generating 4 options of let's say, any problem was itself a skill, right? If you take it in a very different context, AI can help you generate those 4 options. But where it actually comes into the picture is which option do you actually take, okay? And that is niche skill, that is judgment, that is really knowing your subject, knowing the context, applying your skill to a particular context with the 4 options, and then using the softer skills to influence, collaborate, push the initiative through. And therefore, what I'm basically trying to say is that in a student life, you should be very conscious of what is your niche skill, and be focused on power skills, which is human skills.
Right.
A combination of niche skill and power skill supported by AI will make you a fantastic success.
Wonderfully put. Thank you for that. Professor Rao, coming back to you, you've always advocated for teaching through research. And do you think Indian universities, such like Centurion, transition from being just a teaching only place to becoming an R&D arm for GCC? And also, if you could share an example for us.
I'd say it's a work in progress, the transition. I won't say we are there yet. Okay, even
Right.
whether it's Centurion or even I let me talk about. See, it's also difficult to put all universities in the same, kind of a spectrum, because there are all kinds of universities, and rightfully so. I think there are still a lot of colleges which are actually only focused only on teaching, and there are also a lot of affiliate colleges and all that. Of course, the government of India under the NEP has been trying to move everybody into this integrated university where everybody would do a bit of teaching, research, everything and together. In Centurion, we have been kind of moving in the last, let's say 2020 onwards, I would say, not before that, about in the last 5-6 years, more and more into products, right? How did we do it? We actually, first of all, unbundled the entire curriculum. See, we said very clearly that unless some of the old curriculum goes, the student won't have time to really kind of pursue this new age skills and new age curriculum. So we have unbundled it. We have thrown almost 50% of the curriculum out. Right. Okay. For example, any curriculum that is just kind of proving a certain theory or an experiment kind of a thing, we have thrown out, and we have moved from a lab experiment record kind of a curriculum to a product, or rather a project product production kind of a curriculum. So that's a big shift in terms of the pedagogical. So we now call it TPP, right? Previously it was a theory or practice. Today in every course we have theory, practice and project, where the guy has to apply his particular, whatever he has learned into a particular project or a product and things like that. There are a lot of product focus, right? Even in we have now 20 research centers, and in each of these we have, industry partners and all. Like we are working with Amazon Web Services, AWS, and we are working with the Dassault Systems. We are working with Schneider Electric. In L&T now, technologies, we are now working on AI, ML integration and stuff like that. For example, we are looking at, we have a huge allied health program. So we're looking at how do we, allied health, typically what happens is that, you are say diagnostics. Generally, the blood samples are taken and they're analyzed somewhere else. But today, the whole world is moving towards that whole thing of lab on chip, right? Similarly, there are researchers in biomedical in terms of microfluidic, nanofluidic chips and stuff like that. 3D printing, additive manufacturing and stuff like that. So we are moving our not only research, genetics, gene sequencing in plants as well as animals and stuff like that. So all these things now, we are no longer, we say at one time there were only R&D topics, only for getting some funding, professors were doing publications. No, they're no longer so now. We are building our entire curriculum around our labs. And we are also telling faculty to build their courses around their own research competencies, right? So initially we moved all of them into master's program. Right. Then we started moving them like domains into the bachelor's program themselves. So today a BSc chemistry person or even a BSc physics person or a BTech computer science person does almost 50 credits of stuff which is normally 10 years back or 15 years back taught as a research program, right? So we are now this difference between teaching and research. We are kind of especially in the production environment, there's no such thing, right? Okay, end of the day, whatever you're researching must get into a kind of a production place and things like that. So those skills we're actually kind of bringing into students. So main thing we are happening on students is that self-learning skills, right? Because no matter what we teach, after another 2 years, 3 years, this is going to become, especially AIML has come through a complete, every 6 months it's actually, the bar is being raised or, the goalposts are moving. So we are saying students that look, you have to learn yourself, right? Okay, self-learning is the way forward. Learning from the world is the way forward. And we are trying to see how to kind of, integrate that into, our own curriculum and stuff like that. It's not an easy journey at all, because even the faculty are not used to, production-oriented research. They're used to publication-oriented research. But we are trying our best to move the goalposts. Not only us, the national NIR framework, if you see, national ranking framework, is actually incentivizing heavily people who are actually moving their goalpost towards this. So all the top 100, 150 universities which are being ranked there, let's talk about the top 200 universities, have been kind of striving hard to kind of integrate more and more industry, integrate more and more research, production into their particular learning process and stuff like that, right? Okay. There's also criticism from traditional academics saying you are becoming now more like factories, right? They're saying, look, universities are not factories, and there should always be pure, sciences and pure, let's say, humanities and stuff like that. Some are focusing on those aspects. So there is a criticism that is highly reductionist, right? Okay, everything need not be, every learning skill need not have a goal of applicability. Applicability need not drive academics. There's a big argument globally that, look, academics need not be all about applicability. Then what happens to advancing pure science? What is advancing philosophy of life? Let's say, okay. So there is this criticism about it. But a lot of private universities actually largely have integrated a factory type production unit into their particular functioning. I know that we are losing out on certain other aspects of advancing, knowledge or advancing non-applicable kind of knowledge, so to say. But I think everybody has to have their own choice and things like that. So people have made their choices and moving on and stuff like that.
Right. So you said it very correctly about the self-learning part. I think the leader of the future is somebody who learns, then unlearns, and then learns again. And agility is, of course, important. Mr. Sinha, coming back to you, when we talk about the research and development side, the R&D side, do you see that GCCs are sending back their complex problems to the global headquarters? And if not, what would it take for you to outsource a high-level research team, let's say from universities itself, to solve the problem instead?
See, first of all, I was really, very, what Dr. Rao just said about, the scope of research and the partnerships, wide variety of partnerships that are happening, in industry and academia. That's one, such an optimistic view as I see it. One must not forget that Google was actually practically born in a university. Okay, and that partnership continues very, very, is a very robust partnership between Stanford and Google till date, and that's the possibility. I think to your question around GCC doing research work, in locations like India, that's increasing. I wouldn't say 100% of research happens here because of the fact that I think it's an IP issue in the first place, because of the fact that any IP that gets created, has to be protected, and therefore, organizations tend to create that IP globally. Having said that, where we were 10 years back to where we are right now and where the future is going, I think increasing high-end research in product organizations as well as financial organizations is happening within the GCCs in India. Okay, industry partnership is going in the right direction, and I'll give you our own example. We are on the verge of signing MOUs with certain engineering colleges to help us do certain amount of research, help us build our future experts for tomorrow. Okay, where I think the scope is optimum, and this is my opinion, let's say fraud detection. Again, I think cybersecurity models, I think risk modeling and research, all of this actually can be the models and the concepts and the technology can be co-created, developed in a university. As I said in the beginning, the organizations have the context, the universities have the wherewithal. And I think if we join the two, which is increasingly happening, application happens. So what I'm saying is that increasingly it is happening more and more. The case need not be proved. It is actually already proved. We have multiple examples globally of that happening successfully, of both sides actually benefiting from it. GCs in India in the next 10 years, I think will be a very different space from that perspective. And what I mean by that is that more and more research from a GCC perspective will happen in partnership with academia, because that's the only way to go.
Adding on to that, Mr. Sinha, I have an add-on question to that for you. What is one differentiation that you see clearly in Indian professionals if we compare it to the global professionals? What is something special that Indians bring in?
I personally think the Indian perspective on scale and scale application is something that comes very naturally to us. And I think the second piece is that I think our resilience and our ability to actually improvise, our ability to improvise on the go is actually a differentiating factor, as I would see it. Now, you might want to say that's jugaad and that should, is it a positive, is it a negative? I think, our ability to improvise and get things done in limited means is a differentiating factor that we have.
Right. Jugaad is definitely positive for us. It's nowhere.
Absolutely.
Well, moving on to the next segment of the episode, we're now going to begin the rapid fire round. And we only need one word answers from you, no explanations, nothing at all. All right, we'll start with you, Mr. Sinha. One myth about working in a GCC that you want to debunk for students.
It's a cost center boring job. It's a myth.
Okay. Professor Rao, one thing the Indian IT banking industry gets wrong about academia.
Academics are no longer academic. That's a myth.
Okay. Mr. Sinha, is there a room for a joint AI lab where students work on anonymous financial data sets to solve real-world fraud or optimization problems?
Yes.
Okay. Professor Rao, if you could co-author a new degree for 2027 in consultation with a GCC leader, what would you call it?
It will be around quantum computing.
All right.
And how, especially, it's going to disrupt the financial world. Right. So, a quantum safe world. There is a big need for a quantum safe world.
All right. Mr. Sinha, in the context of 2026, is industry ready more important or industry integrated more important?
Industry integrated.
Okay. Now, the closing question is for both of you. Can we create a professor of practice model where GCC leaders spend a semester teaching at the university and university faculty spends a sabbatical at the GCC to understand modern corporate architecture? We'll start with you, Mr. Rao.
Yes, it should be done. It's being done with some industries, but in fact, we can both make a beginning with, if BNP is not only doing it, Paribas is not only doing it, we can do it with them. It's highly, useful both for industry and academia. Yes.
Mr. Sinha.
I'm a believer. Back in the day, long time back, I used to be a visiting faculty at IIM Kozhikode for an HR topic. Okay, so I believe in it, and I think both sides gain from it. This professor of practice, as was explained earlier by Dr. Rao, I think is a step really in the right direction, and both sides will gain from it.
Well, for the closing remarks, Professor Rao, we'll start with you. What are your expectations from the industry and from the government, so to say, or you can focus on the industry as well, towards the academia? and also in terms of collaboration with the academy?
No, I mean, largely our battle has been internal. I don't want to either blame the industry or the government. They have been quite progressive. India has been quite progressive in the last 20 years. I feel both in the policy front as well as in the industry front also. Largely, I think whether it's industry, government, or academia, we're all fighting mindsets, right? A lot of time is going in actually getting our own, inhibitions, our own, so these are internal production issues rather than any great external challenges that we have. So a lot of my time also goes in convincing our faculty and students to move forward, right? Especially the bottom 50%, right? Okay, so because India is a large country, so just 10%, 20% moving forward is not sufficient. So I would not say anything for industry or, they have been quite largely progressive. I mean, there always be some elements where, disturbing, but yes, I think we can do more internally in the mindset changes. That's what we're working on actually.
Right. Mr. Sinha, any last piece of advice for the young professionals, especially entering the financial and the banking industry, and also generally to all the students?
So, for the young students entering into the workforce, it's a very exciting time. I think embrace technology, embrace AI, build on your power skills and soft skills. And I think the industry is moving in a direction, as was highlighted earlier. I think we have the demographic dividend on our side. We have the universities and campuses on our side. We generate the number of engineers and the graduate we generate is, I think, advantage for India. The industry recognizes that. The industry is capitalizing on that, and I think future for our students which are coming out of campuses is really bright.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you to both of you for a wonderful session and for the lovely insights, and hopefully we stay connected for more such conversations. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Savi. Thank you, Rajat ji.
And thank you, Professor Rao. Thank you, Savi. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you.